What's up, podcast listeners? It's Andy and Drew. Welcome to episode 50 of the What's Up Casselberry podcast.
Episode 50, that's a number with a zero in it, and I was always told that's a big age.
That's right. We are not middle-aged. We are on the ramp up. Folks, if you are just tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you've been a part of us since the beginning or sometime during the last 50 episodes, welcome back. Andy and I are Casselberry residents, local pastors who desire to have casual conversations about all things Casselberry, and we have local guests and friends to join us in those conversations. Andy, welcome back, my friend. Robin, Happy New Year. Andy, you survived the Great White North. We missed you. How'd it go?
It was good. In fact, one of the high points of my trip was when I listened to the podcast that you guys did. So congratulations on last week. That was a lot of fun. But we had a lovely time. It kind of felt as Christmas should be. Lots of family time, lots of board games, lots of walks. It was cold. It was damp, the whole thing. But we just had a lovely time, and it was some good rest. I hadn't realized how exhausting 2020 was until I pressed the pause button for a few days. And so I'm glad I did that, and I've come back with a renewed sense of energy and excitement.
I see that. There's just a pep in your voice, and we are excited for the new year ahead. This podcast, we've got some exciting guests lined up, a new sponsor to recognize, and just lots of great things happening. Now, Andy, Robin and I mentioned on the episode previous where you were out of town that the folks were hearing buzz, that the folks are clamoring for dad jokes. They can't get enough of you and I's puns and dad jokes. So I think we need to install a new segment.
First of all, I don't know who you're listening to. I do not know where that buzz is coming from. Maybe it is some bad feedback on your computer.
It's a faint buzz, but it's there. It's there, including our producer. She likes the dad joke. So
she does. Now, Robin loves the jokes, don't you, Robin?
Robin's technical difficulties.
No. I don't think that was a technical difficulty. I think that silence was very intentional, Drew.
Well, hey, Robin and Andy, I had a dad joke. I'm not kidding, listeners. For Christmas, people, my wife, namely, knows that I'm obviously a new dad. I'm cheesy as it is. She constantly reminds me I'm not funny. So she bought me a deck of cards with dad jokes on them, and nice. I had one queued up, but I think we should have Andy share the first dad joke because he had one off air that I chuckled at, and I think our listeners will enjoy. Andy, do you recall your joke?
I do. I am wondering if this new segment will tank the podcast. So true. I'm not sure. All right, here's mine. Did you hear about the man who was injured in a peekaboo accident?
No. What happened?
He is now in ICU.
Oh.
All right, come on. Tell us yours.
All right, I'll tell you mine. Here we go. Folks, did you hear about the kidnapping at school?
The kidnapping at school? Oh, no.
It's okay. He woke up from his kidnap.
Boom. There we go. The shortest lived segment in What's Up Casselberry history.
Agreed. I think that needs to die. Well, going from jokes, unfortunately, to something that's very real, we like to take some time each episode to talk about some newsworthy segments. And Andy, we are recording this episode on January the 7th, which is the day after the riot on the Capitol building. Yeah, obviously, it was you and I actually were were meeting about some other things during the afternoon. And shortly after our time together, I saw this barrage of texts and newsfeed updates from social media. What's going on? And just in the 24 hours or so since we've heard this news, how are you processing the riots? What does this mean for our country, for our community? Is there any kind of words of comfort, encouragement, hope that we can speak to this?
But a couple of thoughts that I would add to the conversation. First of all, I would rather we spoke about the whole day rather than just the events of the afternoon. And I say that because as horrific as the afternoon was, with the threats that it brought to not just people's lives, but to democracy and to our republic, what we saw in the evening was actually quite beautiful, right? That as our democracy was threatened, that was quickly put aside, and a very loud and clear voice came through. We're not going to be divided. We're going to come back stronger. So for me, what happened on Thursday the 6th isn't just about the afternoon, it's about the evening as well. Democracy won because of what happened in the afternoon, and what was intended to destroy democracy because of the reconvening later that evening actually strengthened democracy. So that's just a thing that I'm regurgitating on. A couple of other things that I'm reminded of. One, in the outcry of what happened, is that we all seem to agree on several things, which is a first. Right? We all seem to agree that the struggles of yesterday at the Capitol, or Wednesday at the Capitol as you're listening, crossed the line. And we're all pretty much united in that. We're also all pretty united in the reason as to how we got there, right? It has been years of sowing discontent and fighting with each other and developing sub-storylines and all that kind of stuff that has led us here. And I think we're united in saying, hey, there are problems in our political system that's taken us here. And the fact that we're united in those things perhaps gives us a good opportunity to address them. We're all seeing the hypocrisy, and maybe that's a challenge for us to live with integrity. So in the brokenness of that event, hopefully something healthy can come out of it. The other thing that I'm reminded of is I'm just reminded that all politics is ultimately local. We should care most about what happens around us. I don't have a lot of say about what happens in Washington. I've got one check mark on a piece of paper, but I can influence what happens locally. I can give of my time. I can share my thoughts. I can get involved in hundreds of different ways that make our local community better. So I was reminded that with everything going on around us and the eyes of the world looking, that perhaps the best place for me to make a difference is not on a national level, but is on a local level as well.
I speak similar sentiments. I will be brief, but simply put, the final point that you made about local change, I resonate with very deeply. One of the politicians who actually is Republican and was interviewed last night talked about really denouncing the rioting and the actions taken, and he said, those things are ultimately not affecting change. They're only creating chaos. If you really want change, serve on a local board, run for city council, do things that matter in the community in which you live. And in fact, I just wonderfully reflect as I look out my window of my home. There are folks from various walks of life, various cultural backgrounds, various political and religious affiliations on our street. And that's one of the beautiful things of America, is that we can come together despite our differences and kind of honestly celebrate our differences. And so well said about everything ultimately being local. So invest locally. At times, frankly, I wish that I didn't have access to stuff that was going on nationally, internationally, because ignorance is bliss in some regards. And so I totally agree that if we all kind of double down and focus on what can I do, I can't affect what happens in Washington, D.C., but I can affect what happens in Casselberry, Florida. And speaking of those who impact and do much for our great city, we are going to be celebrating probably next episode with our Community Member of the Month. We love on this podcast to highlight and recognize those who are serving, leading, inspiring those in Casselberry. We want to hear from you. If you have a recommendation of someone in our great city who is doing things to make our city better, bringing people together, leading and serving, you can cast your vote for the Community Member of the Month. All you have to do is reach out to us on our social media platforms, Facebook or Instagram, our website, whatsupcasselberry.com, or our podcast feed. All of those are named What's Up Casselberry. Andy, give us a plug of why people should vote or make a recommendation.
Because simply so often serving locally, as we've been talking about, is a thankless job, right? There's a lot of struggle, a lot of criticism sometimes. But if we didn't have people volunteering of their time, their talents, their treasures locally, our community would be poorer because of it. So friends, who in your circle, in our community, you know, that's making a difference as an unsung hero? We want to sing the praises of the unsung heroes.
Today's sponsor is We Insure. We Insure cares for your insurance needs, whether it be your home, auto, or business. Josh Hinkle is our local We Insure agent, and he and his wife Kelly serve Casselberry, Winter Springs, and the surrounding area. We Insure serves as an active member of the Casselberry Chamber of Commerce and are committed to excellent customer service. I'll tell you, listener, my wife Becky and I have personally benefited from the work of Josh and the We Insure team. Contact Josh Hinkle with We Insure for all of your insurance needs at 321-422-3255. Thanks, We Insure.
Welcome back, listeners, to our first interview of the year, and we have got a very special one today. We have some great ones coming up over the next few weeks that we've lined up, and we're excited to share with you. But today, I am thrilled that we have one of my good friends with us, and obviously Drew and Robin's friend as well. In fact, looking at the little screen in front of me, I see three folks that I am incredibly grateful for. Today's interview is with Adeemir Dacenay, who works with me at the church, is involved in our community, and is a very thoughtful, caring, compassionate young man. And I'm talking about young men because I heard last week, Robin and Drew, that you guys called me old. That is making a big difference in our community. So welcome, Adeemir.
Thank you so much for having me, and for way too many compliments than I probably deserve. So, but I appreciate the opportunity just to be here and have a conversation with you guys. And I like following on social media and seeing all the different people that you guys have had. So I feel special. I feel nice that you guys wanted to include.
Awesome, Adeemir. Man, thank you. And we are thrilled to have you not only as one of our friends, and you work with Andy, which we'll get into, but also for your insight and your wisdom into things related to our community. But Adeemir, we like to, on this program, start off with just some fun icebreaker type questions. So if you would indulge us for a moment. I thought Andy, who knows you well, did a great job of pronouncing your name, or at least he sold it like he did, like it was correct. What are some common mispronunciations of your name over the course of your life? I can imagine teachers, maybe parents of friends of yours. Do you have any name mispronunciations that stand out to you?
Oh man. All right. So I have gotten Vladimir a lot. which is them just inserting an extra sound in there. I've gotten, probably the one that gets me the most is when someone clearly recognizes that there's an extra syllable in there and they just stop and decide my name is Adam. I forget, I had a story of just one person decided that when I introduced myself, I was saying Adam here, as if I was just stating that I entered a room every single time. And so that's always made me laugh and made me just wonder, is like, man, the things we will like selectively hear just to be more comfortable. But I get that one. I've gotten Adeemir a lot. And then honestly, probably the best ones are when I've introduced myself, but then I notice for the rest of the conversation, they've never said my name afterward.
I am probably guilty of that, Adeemir. I was having a conversation about you with someone the other day, and I didn't realize they were talking about you because they kept saying, yeah, what would Adam think? I'm like, who's Adam? But you're right. Drew's right too. When he says, hey, if you're not sure of a name, hey, just say it confidently. That's kind of, how I work my way through some of the Greek words that we have to lean into sometimes, Drew, in our craft. And of course, I have the get out of jail free card of saying, well, that's how we pronounce it in England. What's wrong with you? So, yeah. All right, Adeemir, icebreaker question number 2. You have a love for and work with children and students. And I know personally that you are a big fan of engaging and playing games with children and students. What is your favorite crazy, messy game?
Okay, I have probably 3. All right, so just indulge me with the 3. 1, if you need a game that has no mess or no setup, my favorite one is Best Ever. Best Ever is a game where it forces the person who's hosting the game to think about all the people who are playing. So the way that you play is you'll separate everybody into 2 teams and you'll say something like, we're about to have a competition to see who's the best at burping, right? I just threw that out there in the air. And of course, you'll get kids on both sides just clamoring to be like, oh, I could burp the loudest, you can burp the loudest. And they nominate somebody to go into the center and they compete. And the awesome part about that game, because the person who's hosting it, before you plan the game, it forces you to think about everyone who's attending and think about all their talents and gifts, silly and even the great ones. And then for all the kids and students who are doing it, they're just like, oh man, I just won for like the highest jump or the smelliest shoe, which are silly things to think about, but still the satisfaction for competing and realizing that I can be the best at something and that this is always awesome. On the not so, I guess, game with a lesson side is this game called Gorg. And it's completely terrifying, but a lot of fun if you have teenagers or even just older kids. What we'll end up doing is we hide little pieces throughout like a house or a building where you can do a park. And you just tell them that, hey, you have to collect all the pieces to beat the Gorg. And the Gorg will come out at a certain interval. And so they'll start hunting for these pieces and we hide them really, really difficult locations and all of that. And they'll start running and I'll just let a siren go. So you'll hear a giant noise and we'll send people out in costumes to go tag these kids. And so it's so funny how like immediately as soon as they hear the siren, they take off and book it and they completely forget the purpose of the game. So it's just like a really fun runaround game. But the funny thing you can do later on in the week, which I am guilty of, is that I'll randomly just like let the siren go without any explanation. And you'll watch all these kids just panic and say, oh my gosh, the Gorg is here. We got to go. We've done that in like living rooms while we were like on a van ride and they're panicking because there's no place to go.
Adeemir, I think you have a great marketing idea. We just finished Christmas and, there's all these different methods now to try to keep kids behaved, right? And using kind of gift giving with you could sell a siren and basically like it's Santa's siren. You better, you bet if you hear that siren go off, Santa's watching you.
Drew, as you were asking the question, I was thinking maybe a new segment in the podcast, some like game or something where we figure out what the audio version of that stuff looks like.
Andy, what would you say is that you would be the best ever at if there was a competition?
I would be the best ever at struggling to figure out what I was the best ever at.
I was going to say dad jokes. You're the best at dad jokes.
Well, some would say. I would say.
Well, Adeemir, help the listeners kind of understand a little bit about your involvement in Casselberry.
Funny enough, I was applying for a job with Andy, and I'll never forget it because at first it just showed up while I was doing the job search.
Adeemir, a lot of folks never forget the first time they meet me, and it's not normally for good reason.
Well, funny enough, I didn't hear anything back at first. And I don't know if Andy realizes this. I ended up talking to Tracy. My first go around, just wanting to hear back like, hey, haven't heard anything. Just wanted to follow up. At first, I assumed they already hated me and screamed me. But then lucked out and I heard back from Andy and we set up a meeting at Starbucks. And that was actually my first time getting to know Andy. And through that relationship and working at church together and being more involved with the youth students there. But on top of that, trying to get more involved with Andy on community events and other things in the community and just meeting as many people as possible has really been my goal, especially because my focus has just been primarily how can I get to know the community to the best of my ability. Yeah. How can I have conversations, whether it's going on a walk with somebody or just listening or saying yes if I'm invited to a new event, just going on my way to be available when I can, and because that's the crux of any community involvement, whether it's Casselberry or anywhere else, you got to show up when people need you. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of just been my mindset for everything, whether it's student events and doing small stuff like that or bigger events like the Race and Reconciliation talks later on this year.
Yeah, Adeemir, what I love about what you're saying is you're reminding us all of something that is so important in a community and something that makes a community work, or if it's not present, makes a community not work. And that's relationships. And, one of the things I appreciate with Drew and our relationship and Robin and our relationship and yours and my relationship and the other relationships that we share around the community is that what we share together is the essence of what it means to be a community, right? So if you want to get involved in a community, the way to do that is to make relationships, because there is no community without relationships. And you do that so well. You're a relational person, and it became very clear to me very quickly that building, maintaining, keeping, collecting relationships is one of your passions. What are some of the other things that you're passionate about?
Outside of sports.
Right. Well, you can talk about passion in sports. Drew and I will be all over that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm definitely a basketball person, and more than I care to admit, the amount of time, whether it's fantasy basketball or just watching basketball or anything like that, I've tried to tone that down over the last few years, but sometimes it still gets the better.
Who's the greatest, Adeemir? MJ or LeBron?
So, like all debate, it comes down to our ability to recognize that people are great at different things.
Oh, you should run for office, Adeemir. That was a politician's answer right there.
But MJ will be the greatest to me.
Nice. So besides basketball, what are some other things that?
If I had to say my passions, it would boil down to really community events and conversations. And honestly, regardless of even what the topic is, because I do feel there is something magical that happens when people gather together. And I know that like a difficult topic with like COVID and coronavirus and all that going on, especially over the last year. The cool thing I've kind of seen through all of that is people still have the ability to get together. It's just different. And when that's like the heart and desire of individuals that are making it a point to say like, hey, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances, I am still going to get people together. I think that for a community and even for myself, that's when you thrive. Right? When you get people in a room or a Zoom room or whatever it is, just to talk, or it could be something completely fun, right? It could be a picnic. It could be stuff like 5Ks. It could be a chili eating contest. It doesn't matter. But having the opportunity to be with one another and just like commune with one another and fellowship with one another, that is probably my passion first and foremost.
That's awesome. That you fit so well, Adeemir, into this podcast. One of the words we use all the time is literally the word together, and encouraging our listeners and one another that we need each other. We're made to be in community. Congratulations, by the way, on your 1 year kind of work anniversary of working at church together. Now that you've maybe been there a little while, but still relatively new, what would you say is love the name Church Together, love their location being there, right there at Secret Lake Park. What are some of the things you'd say that your church is really known for in the community of Casselberry?
Funny enough, 2 days ago, I actually went for a walk with Frank, one of the members there, and we just walked for, must have been almost an hour of just walking and talking. And I would say that Church Together is known for being able to walk with people. And even in that moment of just Frank just being willing to talk about his experiences and what the church means to him and all of that, to me, that just highlighted what Church Together was doing as a whole, which was going out to the community and saying, I'll walk with you. I'll listen, we'll talk, we'll develop a relationship. That was something that stood out to me, even when I was getting to know the church and talk with Andy and became a part of it, even just working there. But it was the understanding that if a church is going to be part of the community, it has to also walk with the community in certain things. That has been an awesome revelation and very enjoyable, but I also think it just models how we should all be in the community, right? We can't ask for changes or, cry foul at things if we're not willing to walk with one another. And we have to be willing to do that, even in difficult, long walks, right? And with this walk with Frank, it was 6:30. It was dark. At certain points, we went off the sidewalk and stuff like that, walked through grass and stuff like that. I didn't know where I was going 100% of the time, right? But ultimately, that's kind of how our walk is with people. We're never going to be on the right path 100% of the time. We're not going to 100% know where we're going. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's dark or it's scary or it's unfamiliar. But the most important thing is the person you're walking with knows that you're with them and willing to walk back with them when it's all said and done, right?
Adeemir, that's a profound thought because, with the division in our country recently on numerous issues, it's been said that we're on different paths. And I think that's very true. In order to heal some of the division, it kind of makes sense that we need to learn to walk together. Now, you've been involved in our community and other communities in some deep ways over a long period of time. If you could quickly give our listeners 2 or 3 points about how to walk well with someone, especially someone we perhaps don't see eye to eye with and disagree with, what advice would you give? What would you say to people who said, how do I walk with someone who thinks, looks, talks, feels differently to me?
I would say the first step to that is you have to understand where they came from. Before you are deciding for someone else or walking with someone else what direction you're supposed to go in, you got to understand what direction they came from. and what they experienced on that journey, whether it's heartaches and pains that came with that, the experiences, the relationships that they had or broke getting to that point. I think a lot of the time we want to go straight to fixing without the understanding and compassion, and skipping that step can alienate people or push more people away, even if your desires are good, right? I know a lot of good people that want to love people, but they don't want to take the first step of just listening to see what the actual pain is. And so that would be my first step for everybody. If you want to go and get involved in either a cause or better your community, or either just build a relationship in general, you have to take the time to understand the person you're building with. If you're not doing that, you have to admit to yourself that you're doing it for yourself, not the person. The second thing I would say is be prepared for the long haul. There is no shortcut in a relationship. There's not. And a lot of, whether it's nonprofits or businesses, right, you always hear the adage is like, hey, it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get to a place of success, right? I think the same thing's true for personal relationships, right? It may not be 3 to 5 years necessarily in that time frame, but it's longer than we want to admit to ourselves. Not everything is instantaneous. And so we have to know that, all right, if I am going to journey with someone, if I want to be involved, what does that look like in terms of my time? What does that look like with terms of investing? Because time is a form of sacrifice, right? And I do believe we're all called to sacrifice something. And the first thing you can sacrifice is your time. But if you're not willing to give that part up, then again, you got to go back and say, like, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? Yeah. The third thing I would probably say is keep compassion in every step. You got to keep compassion in every step. And that is a really hard pill to swallow, even for myself sometimes. I mean, over the last year, we've done a lot of difficult conversations, right? That just bring up emotions. And sometimes it's really easy to say, like, all right, you know what? That was the last straw. I can't do it anymore. But in any journey, you're going to hit that point often. And we like to pretend like, you know, maybe we'll have just one fight or one disagreement or one conflict. But historically, that has never been true. And personally, that has never been true. Whether you're married or in a relationship, siblings, whatever, no one has just one fight. Falling into a mindset that I need to be able to restore after the fight, and knowing that I have to carry compassion every step as we journey with one another is going to be one of the keys. So it comes down to knowing where the person's coming from, understanding that it's long, and knowing that you're going to have to love through every step would probably be my 3 things.
Adeemir, I love those. And I love them not just because you're speaking for the sake of speaking, but you're speaking things that you model, right? You say, hey, let's do this together. Let's be committed to it. Let's listen to each other with tender hearts. And I just think that's such a great gift to those that you're in relationship with, certainly to those in our fellowship and to those in our community as well. So I thank you for those words and the integrity that lies behind them because of how you walk. Time has moved so quickly, but I just wanted to find this conversation by saying I think the thing that I've been reminded of by you is that it's so important that as we grow as a community this year, as we move forward from a year of pain and struggle and division, it is vital that we walk together. So my final question is, how can people connect with you and find out more about you should they want to walk with you this year?
Oh, man. Great setup for that. I'm pretty much an open book. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, major social media outlets for that. You could search my name, Adeemir, Adeemir. I promise you, I'm probably the only one. So I'll pop right up. Or you could shoot me an email, adeemir.dacenay@gmail.com. Or if it's through Church Together, my Church Together email, adeemir@ourchurchtogether.com. But people are always more than welcome to reach out. I try my best to respond to everyone. And even if it's late, I promise you, I am willing to sit down and talk with anybody. So always open to it, and look forward to whoever wants to.
Adeemir, we're so grateful that you have joined us today. Thanks for being our guest on What's Up, Casselberry.
Wow, Adeemir, thank you so much for your time. Indeed, as you said, time walking with folks, demonstrating a sense of compassion. We would be better as a community and are better as a community because of your efforts in doing those things. Thank you for that encouraging word and challenge. Andy, would you close out our episode today with an inspirational moment?
Yeah, as Adeemir shared about the metaphor of walking as a good way to understand relationship, another way to understand it is the metaphor of story. And I came across this quote from Edith Lovejoy Pierce, and she was writing at the start of a new year as we just entered into. And she says this: "We will open the book. Its pages are blank. We're going to put words on them ourselves. This book is called Opportunity, and its first chapter is New Year's Day." I just want to remind you, listeners, that as we begin this new year, we have the opportunity to write a new chapter. We have the opportunity to live in ways that tell the story we want to tell. We get to write our story this year. January 1st is a new chapter, a new page. And how you live your life, how you love your friends and family, how you walk in relationship will help determine the story that your life tells. So this new year is a book called Opportunity. Its chapter starts now, and you get to write your story.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Edith Lovejoy Pierce. I hope, at least for my personal book for the year, it has more words than pictures.
And no jokes, please.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the What's Up Casselberry podcast with us, a casual conversation about our community. This podcast has been produced by Robin Kepi. For more information, please check out our website, Facebook page, Instagram, or podcast feed, all with the name What's Up Casselberry. Let us know who you would like to be the community member of the month. Like and subscribe to our podcast. Invite a friend to listen to us. Until next time, have a great week.